The meeting coming to order on on Monday, November 20th, 2023, the Committee of the Whole, regular council meeting of North Pole of Alaska. Madam Clerk, can you call attendance?
Roll call this evening. Mr. Church,
Present.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Here.
Mr. Skips,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
and Mayor Welch is out this evening.
Okay, will you please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ask that you remove your hat, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Invocation.
Before we start, I'd like to give a moment of silence for Ms. Rosamond Carter, please. Ever to make the decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial, keeping ourselves neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Amen.
Approval of the minutes,
Approval of the agenda.
approving the agenda. Excuse
Move
me.
to approve the agenda.
Second.
Move to amend the agenda. Oh. By moving unfinished business item C to A.
Second.
Were there any other agenda changes?
I don't think so.
I'll call roll on the motion to amend the agenda. Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
and then on the approval of the agenda, Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda.
Should be number 6, communication from the mayor.
May we skip back to approval of the minutes,
Oh.
item 5?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of October 16th. Second.
Approved by Jacobson, and second was Skips.
Thank you, Mayor. On the approval of the minutes, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Church, Mr. Jacobson, Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now number 6, communication of the mayor. And at this point, I would like to have Jeff Jacobson come up along with Trish.
Very fortunate 20 years ago when I was the mayor of North Pole to hire this incredible person that we have here. Days at a time, talking to our technician. Not to years.
Yeah, good. Send it back. The other thing I'd like to be able to point out is the FNSB Planning Commission, to be able to state that we have opened that up for the department for either borough of the borough and anyone in North Pole that is interested for this position. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to contact the North Pole office, the city clerk, and she'll be able to help and assist you. We're postponing our December 4th council meeting. And that will be taking, our meeting will be December 11th at 7. And that will be due to the MAL meeting down in Anchorage that most of all of our officers will be going and attending. Any questions of the mayor? Okay. This seems strange to me because I don't feel like I'm one, so I have no answers. Now, citizen comments? Do we have any citizens that would like to make a comment, Madam?
Were there any citizens that wanted to comment on public testimony?
Items not on the agenda.
Agenda, on items
Thank
that are not on the agenda? Okay, have none?
I have nobody on the line, and the people that are here signed up are speaking to 2317.
Okay. Comments from the department heads and borough representative. Tricia?
Thank you. I had our clerk Emily send out the financials last Friday. If you have any questions on those or the updated revenues and interest sheet, I'd be happy to answer those. You can contact me at any time. We have before us tonight the second reading of the budget. We are out of balance due to the changes that were made last time. We can iron them out however you guys wish. Michelle is here to kind of run what we are referring to as our master copy, where the the revenues are a credit and the expenditures are not a debit. And so at the end of the day, we want the bottom to be a 0. That means we have a balanced budget. We can talk about that tonight, or we have another reading and we can make some suggestions if you're open for that. The SHSP grant, that is not included in the budget. So at some point we'll have to make an amendment for that, or I can bring it back as a fiscal note, however you guys wish it to be. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
That entail Danny's part of the budget that has been off? What part of the budget is not balancing?
I believe Danny sent out his recommendations for the couple of the changes that he had in the water sewer and the public works. The other changes that were made, Michelle, do you remember what those were?
I can tell 4,000 went to the clerk's office for elections.
I just also want to comment again of the wise investment strategy that that you recommended that we switch to instead of having our funds in a local bank here where we were earning interest of $500 to less than $1,000 a month in interest to investing with the AML investment fund, where we are earning interests in the range of $8,000, $19,000, $20,000, $22,000, $24,000, $25,000, $26,000 a month in interest. So I would encourage any community or the borough to take advantage of the AML investment fund for a higher interest rate.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you.
Chief?
Good evening, everybody. I do not have a formal report for tonight, but I'm available to answer any questions if you would have any.
I don't have any. You're doing a great job, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Danny here? Oh, you were popped over there. Now it was like, where'd you go?
Thank you, Ms. Clack. And then for everyone here, I'm Danny Wallace, the Director of City Services. For the budget issue for the Public Works and Utilities changes, those are based on the newly found opportunity for commercial driver's license training. So as we go through that, that's what the changes on my side are for. I'll cover 4 special topics and then I'll answer questions. For Moose Creek, we are doing the closeout for engineering and design. That actually happened this summer, but we're doing the final financial closeout for that aspect. Moose Creek is an area where we pushed water utilities to over the last 4 years. There was about a $4.5 million engineering effort that went to design that system. And then the second part of it is construction phase, and we'll close out the construction phase in March of 2024. But the bottom line is that project is on track. There has been staff time costs, certainly for the city of North Pole, but it is something that has been paid for by the Air Force, but it has been based on the contamination in that area. And I'll talk a little bit more about contamination in the next comment. We also, on May 8th, the mayor and I hosted via Teams, a multi-level government meeting focused on groundwater contamination in the North Pole area. And as most of you know, PFAS continues to be an issue in the area as the plume continues to move to the northwest from Milson Air Force Base. Attendees for this meeting included military representatives from the Air Force, Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, Fairbanks North Star Borough, and other interested parties. This was a staff level meeting, although the mayor attended, but the intent was to talk about PFAS and how it's going to impact North Pole and the surrounding communities. Each organization presented their overall roles and responsibilities, and there is a significant monitoring effort. And I think everyone in this room, if you remember, we had a map that showed the wells, and that in the area, there's over 80 monitoring wells in the North Pole area. That information is available on our website. We've got a hot button on the front page of our website that talks about PFAS, PFOA, and you can pull up those maps there. But one of the outputs of this meeting is that the Air Force talked about their next testing set of tests are going to come out in December. We're going to reconvene in January, and I'll report back to the council after that as far as what the status is. The intent of this is to make sure that we're doing everything we can as this PFAS problem potentially will enter our area within the next, well, we're not sure when it's going to come this direction, but it is being monitored, and we want to be prepared. We want to make sure that we've done everything we can. And whether it's preparation through design plans for changes to our water plant or design plans, again, for other mitigation efforts.
So, Mr. Willis, what you're saying is that the ground contamination of PFOS from Eielson Air Force Base is moving through Moose Creek, and now it's moving through the floodplain channel towards the North Pole water table.
As of right now, yes, that is, and they're seeing some detect. Again, the next round of testing is due to come out in December. They're going to brief that to us, and then I'll report back to the council. The Air Force has been very transparent about this, which has been good, and we've had some very open and honest discussions on the ways forward. So, we did a presentation to the Alaska Interior Delegation on city priorities, and in this case, I'll be speaking for the entire staff. The mayor asked me to mention this, that we visited the Alaska Interior Delegation last week and did a presentation and discussion on city priorities. Actually, it was a week and a half ago. Mayor Welch discussed issues with PERS, the retirement system. Well, Chief Dutra and Chief Heineken discussed the firing range and fire department, the need for both of those. For city services, I discussed the need for design funds for a city water main replacement and PFAS contamination preparation. This was the beginning of a discussion with the Interior Delegation. And the mayor mentioned that after the AML conference in December, he'll have a package together to come before the council and say this is his recommended priority. So that was the beginning of the conversation during the Interior Delegation discussions. And again, you should see some more fidelity on that in the next few weeks. And then finally, the Winter Maintenance Forum, I participated along with Cody Lauji, our Public Works Supervisor, in the annual Winter Maintenance Forum hosted by the Fairbanks Area Surface Transportation Committee at the Morris Thompson Cultural Center. This was an annual event that provides information to the public on local winter operations, and we presented an overview of how we do winter operations here in North Pole. Other departments in the interior emphasize difficulty with personnel vacancies. And fortunately, at least for now, we are fortunate not to be in that position, at least in Public Works. But again, we have a much smaller department than many other folks in the area. This is also an excellent opportunity to hear about other winter operations in the interior. And of note, we do have very positive working relationships with the State Department of Transportation and North Star Borough in regards to winter weather operations. The only other update that I have is that the Public Works folks are working on the Christmas decorations, which will go in the roundabouts. Last year, they were out a little bit early, and that's because we had some guests coming to town filming a TV special for the city. So you saw them out earlier. We've actually got some comments about why aren't the decorations out this year. But this is the normal time we usually get those out, and it's based on workload. So you should see those in the next couple of weeks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from the council.
Any questions? Yes. Mr. Skips.
Yes, I missed last meeting. Can you just give me the highlights about the CDL training? What class license they're gonna get?
They'll get and I always confuse the different levels. They'll get a CDL Class A license out of this. It costs about $5,700 per person, and it is a joint with the city of Fairbanks. We're going to send some students. The city of Fairbanks is going to send some students. It is about a third of what we found in other options out there for CDL training. What this allows us to do, the capability it gives us, is for our dump truck to pull trailers. It gives us some very good professional training. And whether we use this vendor or another vendor, we see the importance, and we understand the importance of having trained drivers on the roads that can move around and drive our heavier equipment. We will send 4 individuals, 2 from Public Works and 2 from Utilities. And again, at $5,700 per person, we think that's a worthy investment. We had tried to do it and actually tried to budget it last year, but it just didn't work out for 2023. So we are looking at it in 2024, and the class would be in May. I think it's a 4-week class. Are we gonna have to amend your budget line item for training for that? That's what we've been talking about, because we identified it it was kind of late breaking news for the last session. So, but we see it as a good opportunity.
So in Utilities right now, is there currently any CDL holders?
I'd have to go back and check.
Because I know to drive the Vector, you need a CDL for that Vector.
Yeah, I mean, we may have 2, but this rounds out. I know that in talking to both the Utilities and Public Works, they had at least 2 people in each section that could benefit from doing this.
Okay.
So.
And CDLs have to be renewed, and you have to have an active medical card, physical examination every 2 years. So they may have had a CDL in the past, but it may not be current. But this new one with the CDL-A, with the ability to pull a tractor trailer, is really critical for your staff being able to move equipment around for all the different projects. So I applaud you for that effort.
Well, and thank you for that tip.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you, Danny. Mr. Smith, Officer Smith, or Lieutenant Smith from the police department.
I don't have a formal report tonight, just a couple. I think everyone heard how we did on the food drive. I wanted to make sure everybody knew. We almost broke 100,000, didn't quite get there, but we'll get there next year. As far as updates, police department's doing very well. We've got 2 laterals. They're about to leave to Lateral Academy here next week. Get some, they got to get their orientation training to this state, so send your well wishes with them. Chief regrets that he's not able to be here. He's tending to his mother right now. And being with her to support her through some health issues. So very important that he's able to do that. And I appreciate that the mayor was willing to work with him as well as the city council that he can continue to
that
do
time.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. Beyond that, I can answer any questions you guys might have.
Any questions further?
Just had one for the executive assistant that we've lost. I'm trying to remember her name.
Allison.
Yeah. Sorry. Do we have anybody on the docket to fulfill those big shoes?
Yeah, so Rachel Wing
Okay.
is stepping up as evidence or as executive assistant, and then we obviously opened it up to look to hire a new evidence custodian, and we're just in the very final stages of that process. So stay tuned. There should be somebody in that position soon.
Okay. Now I see where the ball's been rolling down for a while. Okay. Awesome.
So
Thank you, Lieutenant.
what was the name of the person who's stepping up?
Rachel Wing,
Rachel
our
Wang?
current evidence custodian, is moving to executive assistant.
Any further questions for Mr. Smith or Lieutenant Smith? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, City Clerk.
Thank you. We have hired a new deputy HR clerk, Maggie. She'll start December 4th. December 4th will be Melissa's last day or last week, so she'll be here to work with Maggie that first week of December. I will be down at AML with Larry and Benny. The mayor will be attending AML. So I'll return in the city council packet for the postponed meeting. Will be due out that Thursday. So be prepared. That's going to be a super busy week for everybody. And we'll meet on Monday. The bed tax committee is going to meet the 29th. The committee meets beginning at 5:30 and presentations will start at 6. I'll be sending out an email tomorrow with information about the bed tax committee. Other than that, I think, the amount that of bed tax funds that will be split up is $183,600. That's the 2022 audited amount. Other than that, it's been busy in the clerk's office, but we're doing wonderfully.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. And last but not least, Borough Representative, and that will be Mrs. Clack. So I'll give you some highlights because we end up leaving the parts that, and I was only able to, there's a gentleman that was speaking on the bridge, ski trail, which I wasn't quite for sure where that is between Farmers Loop and Birch Hill. So I was trying to get an understanding on that. So there was a concern with snow being dumped and how that snow gathering will interfere with people walking on that path as they're trying to get that undergoing, along with trying to and I want to thank you very much. I'm sorry, guys. I'm totally brain aired. I'm shocked by all this. Okay, so Sally just spoke on that. So with that being said, then there were some teachers that spoke with trying to make sure that the recap on the income that the school board does, the board will still give them the funding that is needed for teachers to be in the building. And most of the teachers were teachers that have to deal with children that are artistic or upset or going through some type of domestic situation at home or no homes, seeing that the staff is short in the building, and most of the teachers had anywhere from 28 or 27 to about 30, 35 kids in their classroom. So that was part of the discussion that was brought up. There were some other variables that I was not able to have privy to, and I've been trying to listen all week, but my schedule got really busy. So I will try to give you a better update next week on our next meeting, if that will be okay. Any questions?
You're doing great.
Thank you. I'm scared to death. Ongoing projects. We presently don't have any.
Oh, I'm sorry. Howard Rixey stopped in.
Oh. Okay. I'm sorry, Howard, can you please step up?
So again, for the benefit of the council there, I'm Howard Rixey, the Vice President of the North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce. And the mayor had asked me to give a kind of update as for the chamber at this particular meeting. So I provided y'all kind of a list of what I wanted to highlight to you here. I'll start with, so we just had a new election of some board members there. We're losing 3 people, and we've actually selected 2 new ones. And we have 1 vacancy that we're entertaining, and hopefully we'll be able to fill in December. And a new board starts in January, where that board will select its new officers as well. I did want to highlight some recent successes, and I say recent in the last 90 days or so. So in August, we did the Christmas of Past dinner. It was a fundraiser for the Welcome Center. It was very well attended, and actually people wanted to see it become an annual event. So that was good. Some of you attended our unveiling of the You Are Not Alone wall at the Terry Miller Memorial Park. That was done on September 1st. And just to highlight that, so that bridges the needs of people that are in need to those unsung heroes that provided a lot of needed services in the community. And so that's really fantastic there. It cost about $40,000 there, and that donation was principally done by the North Pole Lions Club and the Aurora Borealis Lions Eyeglass Recycling Center by way of their permit with Blotto, Alaska. So in October, we had a masquerade wine tasting. Again, a very fantastic event. The room was filled at Hotel North Pole, and it was a fundraiser for Welcome Center. So the other thing we did recently was we partnered with Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce to help promote the PM 2.5 awareness. And that will continue. As far as our upcoming events, we have a busy next several weeks here. One of our campaigns we started last year and we're repeating it this year is the Christmas and Lights thing. And I just want to give you some context. It's pretty sad that when you drive through North Pole during Christmas time and you don't recognize that we're the home of Christmas spirit because there's no decorations. There are very little decorations out and everything else. So we challenged people last year, both businesses and residents, to decorate it up, light it up if you would. And we put money where our mouth was there. We're offering this year, like we did last year, $1,000 to the best business decorated thing out there, as well as the $500 for the best residence home decorated. And that's ongoing here, and you can continue to decorate your home and go on our webpage to submit your pictures and what candidacy, if you would, for those events all the way through November 30th. Along with that, we are on our annual search for nominations for the next year's King and Queen. The deadline for those nominations is November 30th, and our coronation, if you would, is on December 10th. Along with that, we're seeking nominations for our annual chamber awards. That's the Business of the Year, the Citizen of the Year, the Volunteer of the Year, and This will be our second year for the Pioneer of the Year, and all those nominations can be done on our webpage. And the deadline for that is November 30th, and we're presenting it at our December 19th luncheon. Probably a big event that hits the community really hard is the Winterfest. So the Winterfest is December 9th. It's at the North Pole Mall. The bazaar was going to run from 11 till 5. And that evening at 6 o'clock, they will do the fireworks, which is sponsored by Guerrilla Fireworks and the North Pole Lions Club. Also, previously, we used to have what we called the candlelight service, which was somewhat of a coronation of the king and queen, along with some Christmas celebration and everything else. And we've changed the name and we're just calling it a Christmas celebration. But that's December 10th on Sunday at 2 o'clock at the high school. And it's planning to be a very fun event. So we hope we get a good crowd out there. For the benefit of some of the new council members there, we do have 3 recurring events that happen every month, or so to speak there. Our monthly lunches, the 4th Tuesday of the month over at the hotel from 12 to 1. We more than welcome you to encourage you to come. We also do Facebook Live on that. And I just want to make a point on that one. We do Facebook Live and we average about 80 to 85 views on that luncheon, which is fantastic. So along with that, though, we offer what we call, for those people that can't come to our luncheons, we offer a coffee connection and a Cheers with the Chambers connection. So if you're not available for lunch and you want to come have for coffee, during our even months there, the second Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:30 at the hotel, we do coffee and you can mingle with us, Chamber, and figure out all the new things that are happening. And for those that can't do anything during the day, but we can catch you after work, there's Cheers with the Chambers, which we rotate that location to all of the different businesses that offer libation. I'll just go it that way. But from 6 to 7 is, again, rub elbows with us there and learn what's going on and do some networking. Our upcoming luncheons for the next 3 months. So next week's luncheon on the 28th, we'll continue with the campaign for a PM 2.5 awareness. So we'll make that presentation. That'll be our final one there. In December, for some of us that have been around a while, if you don't know, Polar Ice was reacquired, bought, if you would, by the folks from Alaska Builders. And so we're going to be celebrating their revival of the Polar Ice rink. So along with that will be our annual awards. And then in January, the North Pole Veterinary Hospital will be kind of describing what their business model is and with their new facility and whatnot. And probably the biggest thing you want to hear about is the Welcome Center. So the Welcome Center, just want to hit the highlights for everybody that's listening in as well. So our current price tag, our most recent bid for this thing was $1.58 million, which is totally out of our ballpark in our consideration there. Our target is about $1 million there. And that's just for the building. That doesn't talk to the park plaza itself. So our construction plans, 100% construction plans are complete, but we're undergoing what we're calling value reengineering, working with Alaska Builders, Lancer Builders, Johnson River Construction, and Design Alaska to temper down those costs there and hopefully get to closer to that $1 million mark. So that'd be the case there. We still hope to build next year. Our fundraise right so far is roughly $260K in cash and pledges for about $100K in in-kind donations. Yes, we do have an application for some North Pole bed tax funds there, as well as we're reaching into Fairbanks, their room distribution funds as well. So we hope to benefit from that. This past year, we benefited from Lotto Alaska with our gaming permit, and we got about $65,000 from that. We hope to replicate that this year. Dave Lambert has been really good to support this project. One of the things, we're also applying for numerous grants, continue to do that there. And the thing that we're really happy about is we petitioned the IRS to change our status as far as 501c3 status, and they agreed with us that based on the non-traditional chamber activities that we're doing, we are in fact a charitable organization. So as of last February, retroactively, that we are a 501c3. And that'll open up the door for us as far as grants go. And then in terms of the borough, so on October 18th, the committee recommended a resolution 2023-40, which included the North Pole Welcome Center and the list of capital improvement projects for 2024. Unfortunately, on November 9th, the new assembly removed it from the list, principally because it was not a borough property. And just prior to this meeting here, we sent an email to them asking for reconsideration on that. So that's where we're at there. The other thing I would ask is I know it came up here, Danny, so I'm throwing it your way. Is when the city is coming up with their priority projects for capital improvement and requests for the legislature, I would ask the North Pole Welcome Center be added to it. Send the right message. So barring that, any questions? Yes, Jeff.
Thank you for all that you do with the North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce. I love our annual event where we have the Winterfest and the fireworks, and I'm amazed at the number of people that come out for that and how packed the parking lot is and how full the on-ramp or exit ramp is. Traditionally, it's always been the first weekend in December, so you might want to just do a lot of promo on that so that people who are programmed for that first Saturday at 5 p.m. that they don't show up at the wrong day at the wrong time. So I think it will be very successful moving it to the 9th and 10th is just getting the word out, making sure that signs programmed and getting KGMP and every free radio spot to.
Yeah, actually, we have a radio campaign going on for that particular event there. So, and social media is hitting it hard. So everybody's really on ball on it. We've got a lot of feedback on that one, starting actually around the middle of last month. So
Right.
Great feedback though.
Great. And then on your Christmas celebration, are you going to, in lieu of the candle lighting, because they're doing it inside the high school and you can't have real candles, are you doing like the flip the switch at Santa Claus house or anything like that? Or
I know traditionally it was the very first thing that the king and queen did was the Christmas tree lighting there, which originally was over here.
right.
And we've tried to partner with the Santa Claus house for that purpose there. It's not working out last year and it didn't work out this year, just some things going on. And if the Welcome Center's in place next year, hopefully we'll have a tree over there to replace that there. But we will have battery operated candles at the candlelight service, if you would.
Perfect.
So,
And then I had a question when you talked about Polar Ice. Are you talking about what used to be the Polar Roller Building that
Yep.
was turned into a private hockey rink and now it's a
yeah, so
public
it's
one?
going to, so I'm speaking secondhand here. So Jessica has said that so it'll be ice rink, a pro shop and a coffee shop. Three different business entities in there. So they're really excited about it.
And do you know when that's going to launch or open?
Well, I believe they're doing a soft opening right now, but they're doing they're tying it in with our event there on December 19th. So as a kind of an opening. So yeah, we're excited about that.
Very cool. And then where can people drop off eyeglasses for recycling?
That's a great question there. Actually, most every single eye doctor in the area or the eyeglass dispensers, the eyeglass stores, they all have a box for the Lions. So,
and why would they have a box for dropping off old eyeglasses?
You're doing great questions here. All right. So if y'all don't know, we have an eyeglass recycling center right down the road on right off Lawrence and Newby. So we collect about 40,000 pairs of glasses a year, and we recycle them and we push them out all over the world. I mean, I have about 18 different international missions that we support. And we push out about 22,000 pairs of glasses to them. And then on average, about 500 pairs of glasses to people in need here locally, among other things that we do for people with vision impairments. So
that's a wonderful service. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much for helping me. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you for coming. Any more ongoing projects? Okay, let's move to unfinished business. And we're gonna do
Staff report.
Have Officer Smith come back up.
I'm happy to provide a staff report on ordinance 2317. And have the opportunity to talk to each of my council members about this proposed ordinance, as well as hopefully answer any of the questions or concerns that our citizens might be bringing. to this meeting. So ordinance 2317 was developed out of the same desire for public safety that drives everything that we try to do as your police department. You know, over the years, we've tried to be forward thinking and as effective as possible in how we approach the issue of law enforcement in this area. And ordinance 2317 was drafted to provide another tool to us to meet that objective. I think it's very important as a part of my report to clarify what this ordinance intends to do and also what it will not do. So first I'll explain what it will do. Ordinance 2317 adopts current Alaska state statute that's been statute since approximately the 70s. And it consolidates it and it simplifies it into one city ordinance. All of you hopefully have a copy of the packet that shows specifically what statutes are being adopted. Now within this, we have a fine schedule adopted according to the City of North Pole ordinance. We also have a 7-day window where a person can correct or repair the issue that prompted the citation. Most currently, we also have the opportunity for a person to apply for a one-time 30-day repair extension through the North Pole Police Department in those situations where maybe a vehicle repair needs to be done, but there's a part that needs to be shipped or some other hindrance to that being done quickly. We have the option to give people more time. Additionally, we have 3 levels of offenses. The first will start with a $50 fine, the second with a $100 fine, and third and subsequent offenses at $150. There is also an option after a second or subsequent offense committed after a period of 7 days, the vehicle can be impounded. A number of years ago, just to give you an example, there was a vehicle that was driving around North Pole. This individual would go to the dump and load his.
May I interrupt? I apologize.
Yes, ma'am.
The ordinance that's on the floor it has the fee schedule.
Attached.
Correct. The ordinance that's public on the floor, I have here on the screen.
The different pay schedule.
Right,
So,
there.
Madam
it is.
Clerk, what's happened is with that, he's changed the pricing of the offenses. Okay, and what the public concern is the dollar amount of the prices that they were being cited, along with some of the items that they could be cited for. So what Chief has done, from my understanding, is to change the price coding, correct?
Yes.
And then, go ahead.
I believe those are going to be proposed amendments, proposed changes.
Right.
The ordinance as it's proposed
Yeah.
right now, I have here the fee schedule.
We will move to substitute with the lower fee schedule. Just for the public's understanding that the ones that you see posted, the first offense, $100, the next one, $250, and the third one, $500. We have a proposed substitute to lower that to $50 for the first offense, $100 for the second, and $150 for the third.
But we're at staff report.
I was just explaining what you were explaining.
I agree, but I understand what you're saying, but public testimony has to be held before that the changes haven't been made. We haven't motioned it to be on the floor for proposed changes yet. I just wanted to clarify for all the public that's here, those changes haven't been approved or moved.
But as the staff
Thank
report,
you.
he could make those comments.
Yeah.
Thank you. I apologize for interrupting.
No, I do think it's important that the public knows exactly what we're proposing. Yeah. So, I'd also like to explain what this ordinance does not do quickly. 2317 doesn't change the service-oriented nature of our police department. It also doesn't hinder our officers from making wise decisions or exercising discretion. This ordinance also doesn't change any of our current patrol methods or strategies. The ordinance gives the police department more options for working with people to get their vehicles repaired and returned to a safe condition as quick as they're able. In drafting this ordinance, we're trying to balance the safety of the majority with the personal needs of everyone. I want to note for the council and for any listening that there were significant concerns raised by some when we passed our insurance impound ordinance a number of years ago. And despite that opposition, we're still encountering over 100 vehicles driving without insurance every single year. Why do people continue to prioritize themselves above everybody else? I do not understand that. We have a responsibility as your police department to address that type of issue for the safety of the whole community. We also received a lot of negative press for conducting CMV enforcement in the area recently. And that opposition was also surprising to me because out of 30 inspections, a full 36% of the vehicles had to be taken out of service for significant safety violations. There is opposition. This is what you expect your police department to do, to ensure the safety of this community and to do it in the most equitable and fair way possible. Do you have any questions about our proposed ordinance?
I do. There's been some concern that you may stop a vehicle on a fishing expedition where you are stopping them under one pretense, only to find other violations. Could you explain your philosophy that you have with your staff as far as any vehicle stop, why they do what they do?
To stop a vehicle, all police officers are required to have probable cause that a crime or a violation has occurred. It's not a fishing expedition. All of the statutes being adopted by the ordinance already are probable cause to us. We're already stopping people for these violations on a daily basis without them being a city ordinance. That is the requirement. That is the standard.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
Move to, we'll have public testimony now.
Okay, open for public testimony.
Madam Clerk, do you have a list that we can start off
I
with?
do. I have a list. The first on the list for 2317 is Barbara Haney.
Greetings. I do sit on the Borough Assembly, I'm not gonna lie, and I also work for Representative Prox. My arguments or my discussion here should not be reflective of those. But I have to tell you, I gotta be honest. I view kind of my job in both of them is to advocate for the city. Okay. And so you guys have this ordinance and it doesn't sound very welcoming to people. It doesn't matter whatever I get what Ms. Officer Smith is wanting. I get it, but it doesn't sound very welcoming. And so when we then move to the capital projects, the Welcome Center for a community that wants to pull people over tire treads and emergency brakes doesn't sound very welcoming. In fact, it sounds kind of small town and unwelcoming. And while I did continue to advocate for that Welcome Center, I couldn't overcome the negativity that came from the proposal of this ordinance. And I want to thank Ms. Clack. She did a great job. And she did her best to sort of soften it. But the overwhelming attitude was that y'all aren't too welcoming and you don't want business. And we kind of had this vision in our head of somebody going through the parking lot with a quarter checking tires at the Safeway. Okay. And that, where I live, I'm equidistant between the city of North Pole and Fairbanks. And I don't mind paying the sales tax here. But if I've got to get a moving violation because I didn't check the tire of my tread recently, I'm a widow. Okay. I can't see the tread every time. I get it checked when I go in and go get my oil change. Well, in between oil changes, I might have a little bit of tread worn out. To me, I just don't even want to come into the city and find out. It's very discouraging to me. And it makes it very difficult for me to be in a role of advocacy in my day job, in my night job, when I'm fighting this kind of publicity campaign. I understand that you guys want to be safe and you want to find a way to make revenue. I get that. But I'm going to tell you something. The negative publicity from this is going to cost probably the Welcome Center. And we were this close to having a grant for that for a lot of money. And I could think of 10 million reasons why I would not want to pursue this ordinance. Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, you want to perpetuate a belief or a perspective that you're not very welcoming. Okay, I don't live in the city. I'm going to try to advocate for you still, but it'll be a lot tougher. And I do try. If you go back and you listen to Borough Assembly hearings or you listen to my comments, otherwise, I do try. I would ask you to just not pass this. I understand the sentiment. The police can already pull over people for these things. You don't need this ordinance to do that. All this ordinance does is kind of give it the small town mentality. All right. If you look at the list of violations, they're all in state regulation. They're not statute. They are regulation. There was one, I think, that was in statute. There could be a couple others, but most of them were in regulation. Regulations change with statute changes, but you can already pull over people now for that. You don't need this to pull those people over. In fact, they have been. So all this does is kind of punctuate, I guess, in some respects, an unwelcoming attitude to people who are not in the city. So I would ask you not to pass it, or at least really think about it, because it's not just the fee schedule. You got to understand, somebody orders tires. I've got a friend who's been waiting 30 days to get his tires in at Costco. All right. And that's not even including the mounting to wait for that. I've had 3 mechanic shops where I've tried to get my fuel injector cleaned, and the wait time is pretty long. So I would just ask you, it's a lot more than 7 days, and you're going to end up with people getting moving violations, higher insurance rates, and that's going to reduce the disposable income they have to spend at businesses. Let's be honest. So I understand that there's been a few delivery drivers and DoorDash drivers and delivery trucks that probably were on the sketchy side, but they're here delivering products for people to sell. They're for the businesses here. And it's very heroic to go after people for small violations, I suppose, but you got to think about, do you want to be welcoming to customers and commerce or not? And I don't live in the city limits, so it's your city, but if you want to hear from somebody who doesn't live in your city, I'm going to think twice about coming here and buying anything. Truth. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Barbara, thank you for your advocacy for North Pole issues on the Borough Assembly. I really do appreciate that, and for you taking the time to come out here. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people in this room are here because of some of the chatter on social media that really is not accurate and not really what this is all about, where the officers are not going to be going around with quarters and coins and checking treads in parking lots and stuff like that. That unfortunately is the bait that's getting people riled up. And so again, a lesson for all of us: just because someone says something on social media does not make it real, because really what the issue is that we have irresponsible people living in our community who drive without insurance, who drive under the influence, who have unsafe vehicles. I don't know how many vehicles I drive and see on the road that don't have lights, and I almost hit them, and that we have really obscure driving conditions. And when people don't have lights working, I'm at risk for hitting them. And so all this is about is just bringing the attention back to, it's a privilege to operate a motor vehicle driving 60 miles an hour down that highway. You better be safe. because I need to be safe for that person. So that's what the message is. And if we need to slow it down and modify what we're doing, we'll do that. We're not about to jump into this and stir up the hornet's nest, but we want to find that balance, I think, of really alerting people that we need to be better about how we drive and why we drive and what we drive.
I'm not here to advocate for driving around without insurance. I'm not here to advocate for driving drunk, okay? I'm not here for advocating for an unsafe vehicle. You can pull over vehicles now for all those things without this ordinance. You don't need this ordinance to pursue those things. So that's why I don't understand why you're looking at the ordinance, because you can already do it. All right. And so by kind of repeating state statute in ordinance, what you're doing is you're setting a signal. You're saying that even if the state changes their ordinances, you're not. I mean, you can already do it right now. That's all. You don't need this to be able to enforce those things. And so I don't understand why you need the extra lockiness of putting it into your city ordinances when it's already state regulation and or statute, depending on the offense. As a reminder, that's 7 days. It seems reasonable, but I want you to think about something. What repair shop do you have within the city limits? You don't. Okay. So you're really making your city policies hostage to the business practices outside of your city limits. And I think that's unwise.
And that's something we're going to discuss.
And the state does allow for 30 days and you don't have to apply for it. It's a 30-day fix-it ticket. And quite frankly, I didn't get a chance to talk to a lot of automotive places. I just know about tires because that's been the most recent one that I've had friends and people calling actually the LIO trying to figure out if there was a tire company even around, because people are pretty desperate for getting those tires. That's reality. Okay. And 30 and 60 days on a lead time right now to get your tires changed. There's still people out there who don't have their snow tires because they're waiting. So, somebody decides they have unsafe tires, but they're waiting. What are they supposed to do? Not get groceries? I guess they'll just drive into Fairbanks. Yeah, I get my concern is, if you're sitting here as a mom and, you got little kids and you've got to run to the store, where you going to choose? You're going to choose the place where you're going to get a ticket? Or are you going to choose where it looks like, you're going to get hit? I mean, it's still, and even if you reduce those fines, it's still a moving violation on your insurance and your insurance goes up. And for, a 21-year-old male that's unmarried, that could be a devastating thing. That's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe you don't want unmarried males without families driving.
I'd like to remind the council at this
Anyway.
time, it's questions only from the council.
Sorry.
Yes, Anton.
Ms. Haney, are you aware that police officers, especially here in North Pole, their first job and their first opportunity that they do is actually to teach and not to write tickets? Are you aware of that?
I can tell you that when my sons were growing up, they were pulled over and given tickets.
Okay.
And
How long ago was that?
Let's see, Stephen, is probably 10 years ago.
Okay. All right. Have you had recent conversations with police officers from North Pole within the last couple of years?
Yes.
You don't have to divulge anything, but
No,
Okay.
I've been at the interior delegation when they've been doing their trainings in working with them and finding a training area. So yes,
all right. Thank you.
I'm not anti-police, if that's what you're asking.
I understand.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hannah, for coming in.
The next person I have for public comment is Donald Thompson. I'd like to remind you have 5 minutes for public testimony. I did not set the timer for Ms. Haney.
Hello, I'm Don Thompson. I reside between North Pole and Fairbanks off of Nordale area. My concerns about the part that we heard read is how they determine a violation. Some are aesthetic alone. Granted, on the very latest vehicles, the bumper wrap has sonar sensors. But the bumper wrap, other than those in earlier vehicles, the bumper wrap is aesthetic alone. So if they pull over a vehicle and write you a ticket because there's a fracture in the bumper wrap, that's not a safety thing, that because the bumper's there. That's just an aesthetic plastic that goes over the front of the bumper. Front and rear, same way. Other things are like that. I agree that the cars going down the highway with moose lights instead of their headlight, replacing their headlights. I don't like that. And those should be taken off the road, in my opinion. But they continue to run. You and I are blind in the face of those lights. I work every day at Fort Knox Gold Mine. And we actually had an admin person who replaced her Jeep headlights with moose lights. And it took us more than 7 months to get her to change those lights and get rid of them. So these are the things that I'm concerned about. The real safety things.
Right.
The aesthetic things. And then again, even the latest model vehicles with the sonar sensors, it's going to take you months to get that part up here. So that 30-day grace period after an application for it, that's very short. I know of my own mind getting a little plastic part from the lower 48 for a haul truck sometimes takes us 3 months. So yeah, 30 days on an application, I think that's ridiculous. I think we should make it more Alaska. We live up here and the lower 48 doesn't think we belong there. So I'm going to conclude my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for some very good ideas for us to consider.
Madam Clerk?
That brings us to Rita Trottmiller. Thank you.
Rita Trometer from North Pole. We've been here quite a long time. And so I wrote this before Officer Smith said anything, but it really doesn't change anything because my information was gathered from the Borough Assembly meeting for me to compile this. So good evening, North Pole City Council. I am here this evening to speak regarding the Hazardous Vehicle Ordinance 2317 that will be voted on, I believe, this evening. On behalf of many citizens, including myself, who lives in and travels around North Pole City on a daily basis. One would expect the home of Santa Claus to be a cheery Christmas village year-round. What a great experience to see Santa and his reindeer, maybe Rudolph and his shiny red nose. Colorful Christmas lights, candy cane light poles, friendly officers who are there to help, smiling business owners, all the wonderful giving of the holiday spirit and cheer. The little town of North Pole continues to lack the joyfulness of the residents due to the red lights flashing, not from Rudolph, but hungry officials to help build North Poles of their unknown fundraiser and costly vehicle citations that the state already has on the books. One would think the city would have learned from the experience of last year's Christmas lights court case would have been a learning lesson. Obviously not. Before the city council even considered an ordinance of this type, they should have done their homework. It was mentioned at the Borough Assembly meeting that violators would be given 7 days to correct their citation. Obviously, not one person on the city council here made any phone calls to see how long it would take to get a diesel vehicle into a local garage, including Fairbanks garages. The last time I checked for a diesel vehicle, it was 3 months waiting period just to get an appointment, not to get the repair done. Before the snow hit the ground, our family called local garage here in North Pole area to get my winter tires on, only to get them swapped out by my summer tires. They gave me 5-week waiting period. I think every council member is unrealistic to consider this ordinance at the time when fuel is high, repairs are costly, businesses lack manpower, and every household is trying to survive on wages to maintain. I am asking each of you to consider how this will affect each and every person who drives in and through North Pole every day. It is very obvious that this is just a moneymaker for the city of North Pole. I do not know this evening how many business owners are sitting in this audience, but if I owned a business in the city of North Pole, I would be very upset that the city council is ruining my source of revenue by running people out of town and to be known as an unfriendly city for the tourists and locals alike. After a very publicized news and social media reports of the past and current, I hope the North Pole City Council reevaluates what they are doing to their small community. Don't be known as harassment for a fee city. Please allow residents to enjoy the light of the season from the dark, cold, long winters and have cheerful reports and articles about our town to bring others to our city for a day, a week, a holiday vacation, temporary or permanent work status. I pray the city to have a heart and be a shining star of the season year-round. Please allow us to have a holiday cheer. And God bless each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? None? I do have one statement if there anybody else that needs to speak,
There is one more person for public comment.
go ahead.
Jerry Million.
Five minutes, Jerry.
Divided by 12.
I'm looking around the room and I think I'm probably the oldest resident in this room from North Pole. So I grew up here and went to the school system, 1st through 8th grade in a rectangle building. 8th grade, 9th grade, you went to Lathrop on a school bus, about well over 20 miles, had to go down Badger Road. And I honed my work ethic on the Ford homestead. Joe Ford was my best friend, and his dad was the first mayor of North Pole. And I also got paid $1.50 an hour to bale hay on that very land where all those houses are sitting right now. And so why am I telling you that? I have been here a long time. I'm a huge advocate for North Pole, have been, still am. And North Pole, when I went to Lathrop to school, this was a farming community. And it was, you got treated differently out here. In other words, the kids in the city, you were the redheaded stepchild. And some of that remained because I went into business here for 26 years, meeting a payroll every 2 weeks. And if you've done that, that'll mean a few things to you. Went to the school system for 20 years, just retired in 20. And so I saw that attitude from a lot of those kids at that school about how the North Pole people and the kids, we're from North Pole, we're not supposed to be smart. And so I have put a lot of effort into this. And I will say that I don't support this ordinance at all. And I know Jeff very well, and I don't do social media, by the way. I have enough hassle keeping up with text and email. I don't do Facebook, Instagram, and the 42 other social media sites that are out there. So I'm not affected by that. And I will parrot what Barbara Haney said, that these statutes and the stuff in this ordinance are already there. They can already do that with people. And so I'm just completely against it. And so I just say scrap the whole thing, keep doing what you're doing, work with the students on a more friendly thing for training. And that's not what I saw when I was at the school, by the way. A lot of those students there I taught the automotive program there, by the way. So that's what I did. And there's a lot of harassment from North Pole police. with those students there. And I was right in the front line with it. And so I will say this to you that I've got these two books here and I'll reference those. You are dealing with the bureaucracy here in North Pole now. And that doesn't have anything to do with the individual people within it. You're all fantastic people. I know most of you up here. The only person I don't know are these right here.
Oh, you don't know me.
No. And so you're doing a good job. Thank you for serving and thank you for doing it. And thank you to the police officers too. I mean, I totally respect that. You have to have laws, especially when you have people going in. But at the same time, if you understand that you have a bureaucracy, you have to be careful that it just doesn't keep growing and growing. And I have two, if anybody on the council wants any of these books, I will be gladly give you a copy of them. Because if you're going to sit in a council like this and manage a city, you're the governor for the city. And you have to watch how you let things get out of hand with it. And this is a very good one here, because we're living in a world with social media problems. We're living in a world with economy problems. We're living in a world with mental illness and suicides. And this is called The Rule of Nobody. And it tells about all the different regulations that come along. And we get 40,000 new regulations a year. The average citizen cannot keep up with them. This one is even more shocking. 3 felonies a day. And there's enough laws in our books that that the average American can have 3 felonies a day. They don't even know what the laws are. And so I say with this ordinance, scrap this thing. You already have enough power with the city to take care of the problems that you have out there. And I don't see the problems that Jeff sees. I don't run into too many people with lights out. I get it. I think that's a good thing, but you already have a mechanism for that. And so I'm just not saying it. I say scrap it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Jerry.
Any questions?
Question from me,
If
Jerry.
you want any information on tires, invite me back another day. I know a lot about them.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Could you
Mike
please-
Prox, 1015 Meadow off of Badger Road. And I echo the comments, previous speaker, scrap this. Police already have the authority through the state regulations that they're citing in this ordinance. They can do it right now. If the object of the game is safer vehicles, they have all the authority they need through state regulation. It's not needed. If they want to do courtesy inspections, that's one thing, help people out. If you want to establish a fine schedule with a fairly draconian enforcement schedule, and you want to drive people out of North Pole, that's what you can do with this ordinance. I don't think you want to do that. I don't think that's what North Pole is all about. It was at a time, as I remember what Jerry was talking about. And North Pole was the laughing stock of the community for Keystone Cop operation. And you don't want to do that. It took a while to get over that reputation. Don't want to do it. And it's perception. It's not that the cops are trying to do something bad. I get that, but it's perception. We had a moment of silence for Mrs. Carter. And he was President Carter, who's still alive, in my estimation, was one of the most well-intentioned, principled presidents that I can think of, certainly in recent history. And yet he's responsible for ANILCA and imposing the national monuments on Alaska. He had every good intention, I'm sure. But he did not make a good impression with Alaskans, and that has caused considerable divisiveness on a big national scale. But this creates that divisiveness on a local scale. It's not that you're wrong, it's perception. When we have policemen pulling people over for minor infractions, it just creates ill will towards the police. And we don't need that. We need them to be community policemen that have the best intentions of even the people that are violating laws, that they're there to help out, especially with vehicles. The people you're going to be targeting are those more or less, maybe through even a fault of their own, but they can't afford it. This is a big deal to somebody with limited income to have to replace a taillight. Might cost you $300. I've got an appointment for a check engine light on my car. I made it 3 weeks ago. The appointment is from a week from today for a check engine light. This isn't going to work. This is going to cause a blowback that you don't want to have, and I certainly don't want to see for North Pole. And there's another mention, the complaining on Facebook. Well, I don't like it, but Facebook is becoming the artificial reality, and people start to gripe and they start to complain, and it gets out of hand, and this is just going to exacerbate stuff like that. So I really do seriously encourage you to just scrap this ordinance. If you want to do vehicle safety, you've got all the authority you need in state regulations right now, and the police can enforce those. This will be seen as a money grab, right or wrong, and it will just damage the reputation of the North Pole Police Department in the eyes of the public, guaranteed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else?
Hi, good evening. My name is Tammy Wilson. I don't live in North Pole, but I spent a lot of time in North Pole. Has to do with a 3- and 5-year-old. So ordinance on 924 talks about the second offense committed after a period of 7 days shall result in an impound of the subject vehicle. I'm a single mother of 3 children. I'm barely making ends meet. I finally got a car. Was it a really great car? No, but a car with an engine. I could put gas into it. I get pulled over because my tail light's out. I can't change it. I don't have the ability to be able to do it. I don't have any money. I'm making ends meet. So I take the chance and I drive the car anyway. On day 8, I get pulled over for the same thing. My car can now be impounded. Where does that make sense? For a tail light. Should it be fixed? Absolutely should be fixed. But sadly enough, everybody doesn't have an endless supply of money. A lot of people are doing what they can to make ends meet. And to me, that's really who this goes after. You said you could have a one-time 30-day extension. Well, cars break all the time. I know when my husband passed away, I swear everything on every vehicle had a problem. And I didn't even know how or who to call at that time. My other question is, when you go through these, again, these regs that are in there, that could be changed at any time, brakes must work. Well, what does that mean? I mean, I know it should stop the car, but how soon should it stop the car? Quickly, a couple seconds? Are you going to test it out there on the road when somebody gets pulled over? Must have operable parking brake. Again, I got pulled over for a taillight. How are you going to know if my parking brake works? Are you going to even check it? Tinted windows. Well, how tinted is tinted? Almost every car has tinted windows. To what degree is that? And then if it came manufactured like that, which it has, what am I supposed to do? Change all my windows because all of a sudden the definition makes me illegal? Tires in unsafe conditions, inadequate tread. I think that's where the quarter thing came from. I never stuck a quarter in mine, but I can tell you there was a representative one time that wanted to have the same type of tires to be safe. Well, that never became a statute because a lot of testimony came because of it. 930, fines on violations are separate from and in addition to all other remedies authorized by law or equity. So you pay the state fee and then you pay this on top of the fee? I don't know. I'm asking you because it's not my ordinance. So is this a portion then that North Pole will get to keep and right now they don't get to keep it? Because that's the only thing I can figure out because again, you can write tickets for everything that is in this ordinance. So is this an additional fee that's now going to come to North Pole and be able to fund other things? If so, honestly, I use Safeway a lot. I'll pay more sales tax if that's what it takes versus pick on those who don't have any money. Again, since we already have established that these are all currently done, how many tickets have been written in the last year? On these ones that you picked, how many tickets have been written? And how many people didn't fix their vehicles when they got the ticket? How many police officers are we going to take off the road to come check somebody's inspection that they got taken care of versus being on the streets and slowing down people who are truly unsafe? The speeders that go through neighborhoods when you have little kids playing. I came a couple of weeks ago and I was asked about, do I call the police every time they do it? I would rather them be on the streets watching that happen versus checking a vehicle out here. How much time is that going to take? But I really, truly tonight just want to know, would you really take somebody's vehicle on day 8? I mean, somebody who saved their money, their dimes or nickels or PFDs to get a vehicle, and then they couldn't keep it up to the grade that this requires you to be able to do? I hope not, but you can. But finally, I just really have tried since I've learned about it. Why? If you can already do it, nothing in the staff report said, here's all the violations, nobody's fixing their vehicles, so we're going to charge them more and hope that helps. Then at least that would make, I don't think it makes sense, but at least I'd understand why you have it. And then I understand even less if it's an educational purpose. Well, why are we not educating now? Do we need this ordinance to educate people? I don't think so. Because if it worked now, right, and they're already getting a citation, now we're writing a second citation, that's like everybody goes down the highway at 90 miles an hour. So now I want to lower it to, 50 miles from 60. Well, they weren't abiding by 60. So more laws and more regulations don't make people do what they should do. A lot of times their income and their situation has more to do with than anything else. And that's who this is hitting. I really wish you would turn it down. Keep stats. Find out what's going out on the street. Do you need to do more because people aren't fixing it? But now I don't think you have that information. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
I have nobody else signed up for public testimony. Oh,
Good evening, North Pole City Council, and I appreciate you taking your time to hear this comments on your ordinance. My name is Hank Bartos. I live right outside the city of North Pole and have been here for more than 40 years. I'm a retired fighter pilot out of Allison Air Force Base. I own property in the city of North Pole, and I rent property to mostly young families out of Allison Air Force Base. They travel the highway through this town, going to Fairbanks and other areas. And I'm sure they're not aware, of this ordinance and the implications and what it could have cost them. I can tell you, they don't have the money to change out a taillight immediately. On the older cars, all you had to do is unscrew it and put another bulb in it and tighten it back up. The newer ones, not so much. You have to take the whole darn thing off, and it's very difficult and have special tools to do it. And if you don't have the technical expertise, then you have to take it to a shop or someplace else and pay an exorbitant fee to have it done. I have been on the Borough Assembly here for 16 years, and I agree with what Representative Prax has said, Representative and former Assembly Member Wilson, and the current Assembly Member Haney, and the mechanic Jerry, and school teacher.
Technician, mechanic's the old.
Well, these people have been around a long time. They understand the people of this community, and they have always supported it. I've always supported North Pole community. My wife was a school teacher here for over 30 years. And this is a great place to live. And I hate to see you come up with an ordinance like this that's based on state statute that's already there. But if you look at the state statutes when they were put into being, some of these things are 20, 30, and 40 years old. They need to be revived. But a police officer can pull you over and say, well, maybe it's out of date, but still we're going to enforce it. Now, I've had the opportunity to move around in the Air Force, and I've been in a lot of different states. And the state that I came from to here was Texas. Every 2 years, I had to take my vehicles in and have them inspected. They checked the headlights, the brakes, the taillights, and they gave a little sticker on your car. And they've done it in other states too. It's a state situation. This is a state requirement. And all of a sudden, we want to make it a definite City of North Pole requirement. You know, do you know what happens when a North Pole City police officer writes a ticket for somebody and it's $100 fine? Where does that money go? Who gets it? Do you know? Do you think it stays here in North Pole? You better guess again, because people are going to see this as a revenue enhancement for North Pole. And I think it's going to put a black mark on you. You know, we've got a lot of stuff going on here. The Three Bears coming in. I'll tell you, if I was an executive of Three Bears and I read this ordinance, I'd say we're shutting down and moving someplace else. That's about how serious this could be perceived. I sold houses for 20-something years in the city too. And, you have a sales tax on real estate, but you don't collect it. So I guess that's what you're going to come up with next. I think this needs to be scrapped. I don't want to go into any details about, the finer points of it, but if it's there and if you want to lobby the state to have a statewide inspection program, that's fine. And everybody will fall under that. Right now, Steve Dutra and his guys, they have the authority to do this. A lot of the stuff is not in statutes, such as the moose lights, the purple beams that a lot of people have that blind you. But if they had a statewide inspection program, then those things could be taken out. They could be put into statute where people, are not blaring these new lights that are extremely bright. So I'll be glad to accept any questions you might have.
Any questions, staff?
Do you remember when we had a real estate sales tax of $8 cap and that was fought against by you?
Well, as it should have been. But the city of Fairbanks and everybody else, nobody else had it but the city of North Pole. And realtors forgot about it. They didn't know. And who was going to collect it? Well, we want the title company to collect it. Well, the title company said, we're not collecting a silly tax from North Pole. So then what do? You just forget about it, I guess. That apparently is what. Larry, do you pay the city tax on property you pay in sale in North Pole?
I do.
Yeah.
It's not on the books anymore, Hank. You're safe.
Oh, well, I'm not in the real estate.
Thank you, Hank. Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to come up and speak? Could you give your name and address, please?
My name is Alex Smith. I live off of Hartzog Loop 1260A. I am well aware that I'm by far the youngest person here, and I apologize if my argument will sound naive, but to repeat what Officer Smith said, the officers would have discretion in how they use this law. And with that, I would like to say I personally am an advocate for it. I wholeheartedly believe that it might need some revision after all 7 days to get a vehicle fixed, is I'm well aware that that's not perhaps the best choice. I can't do that personally, and I've got a little bit of expertise myself. I would like to also rephrase a saying my former scoutmaster once said: all laws are made in blood. If this law is coming to the table, it's not for lack of police officers trying, it's because this is a real problem. And while I might not be the best advocate for the student population in North Pole, I can safely say that it's definitely a problem. I've only been driving on these roads for a year maybe, and I've gotten into some sketchy situations myself, from faulty taillights and headlights and whatnot. I don't know if there's like a motorcycle or something on the road and pulling into the passing lane, or if it's another car, and I just have to hope that that's another car and I'm not going to hit somebody. And with that said, I truly do advocate for this. I advocate that it would be revised some with considering the public's interest in it. And that's all from me. Any questions?
My question to you is, you said that you've come across this situation where you have taillights or whatever missing, and you've only been on the road for a year. And my question to you is, how often, as you're going to school, do you see that your fellow students have the same situation, that you see that they're pulling in and they're missing a light or a tail light, or they've got the moose lights or the blinking lights? Can you recall?
Not off the top of my head, but I can safely say that there's definitely a part of the population that would have a faulty light. I know a friend who got pulled over with, I believe it was a faulty taillight. I believe that would have happened about a couple months ago.
Any other questions? All right. Anybody else in the audience have anything else they wish to add today? Okay.
Move to postpone this ordinance until February 5th. And if I could have a second, I'll explain myself.
Second, and I'll probably join you in on the second.
Okay.
Because before you start, can I do a clarification? No, you go ahead and go.
Since we have a motion on the floor has been seconded, I just want to speak to it. I appreciate all of the good comments that have come forward. It gives us a lot of food for thought. I'd like the opportunity to work more with our police department so that we can address these safety concerns and do it in a way that's proactive. We have a wonderful resource in that we have Chris Illingsworth working with us and with the community to build community relationships and to develop programs to improve safety and making our community a safer place to live by the choices we make. There's a lot of valid points there. I think again, the overriding concept is what is the best way to improve driver and motor safety in our community, since we have so much traffic coming through and so many people coming into our area. I think delaying it will give us time to have several work sessions with our staff so we can look at each of the different issues and look at perhaps a time frame for warning tickets where they have the opportunity to get it fixed and or bring in appointment documentation saying that they have appointments set up or whatever. There are a lot of things that we can do to, I think, make this better. There's still going to be a certain, I think, segment of our population that, any enforcement, whether it's a state reg or city code, is going to be an unpopular thing. But I do believe that, the regulations are on the books for a reason. If you're unhappy with the state regs, we have state legislators in our building, former and current, that could be working on those aspects of it. I think this would be a good time just to have a timeout. We're entering the holiday season. I really think that giving us time to go through the holidays and have work sessions, and then possibly we consider changes to it at a meeting on the 5th. Again, an ordinance is a living document, so just because we put a date for adoption on the 5th doesn't mean that it will happen on the 5th. It still could be considered, it could be worked on until we get it right.
Yes, Jerry?
Oh. Darn it. Ms. Clark, you said you wanted to say something?
Yes, I want to thank all of you for coming in. It's highly appreciative. Okay. With that, when we look at tires, because Barbara, when you asked that question, and I gave you the answer during the borough, as an Alaskan, because I was born and raised here. So the longest that I've been out of this state, all in all, is 3 years. Okay. So I've dealt with, because the person I married was in the Army. So I followed him out of here to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Now, going to a southern state, seeing people not used to being in the winter, and seeing people coming up here that's not used to being in the winter, and trying to figure out what their tires are. And as I stated at the borough, my husband and my father both taught me at a young age that that's what you would use to check your tread. Now, that conversation in the borough was to help those that are coming to Alaska that may not know. You have been here for quite some time, so it wasn't supposed to be something to help get anybody in a tizzy or anything, okay? Along with the fact that you may be a single parent, it's not 7 days. We were willing to work with anybody. Now, the other thing I heard in this conversation today is North Pole used to be, yeah, you had a light out, you got pulled over. Like I said, I was born and raised here. I had a lot of friends I came out here with in a car. And in that car, if my light was out, because I had a Pinto, my light was out, North Pole Police pulled me over and they gave me my ticket. And I went home and told my parents and had to pay the bullet, okay? But the goal is safety. Same goes for the 33 cars that we pulled over and there was 11. The goal is safety. My other concern in this conversation is we're about to have Kinross put down a 92-foot truck down the road. Now, my thought on that subject is if they didn't have nothing but one tail light and we got snow blowing, or one headlight and we got snow blowing, and then we have this big old truck on somebody, may it be a bus or Pinto, we're losing lives. So we're not trying to make this where we're, as a city, trying to collect money. That's not the goal. The goal is safety. And the goal is when you bought your vehicle from whoever you bought it from, they gave it to you whole. You had lights. You had the right proper attire on the vehicle. Okay. So that was the goal. If you bought the proper vehicle from the right people. I understand that we have the teacher in here who did automotive, and I enjoyed your class. I was your sub there. So that's when you had a chance to see me, but you didn't get to see me. Okay. So with that being said, I saw the documents that you taught in your classroom. Okay. And I highly appreciated what I saw. And I saw that the students were really sharing what you were teaching them. So I saw, just like you, the changes here in North Pole. So with that being said, that's what I like to be able to acknowledge. This is not a money grabbing thing. This is a safety thing. Okay. For everybody concerned. And as far as being a single parent, I have 2 daughters that are in that same boat. So we were willing to work. When we came up with this, it was the 7-day factor to get the simplest things done. We wanted to be able to work with whoever. We have a very great police department. The police department, when they come in and give their report, they'll tell us if they pulled somebody over. Last week or 2 weeks ago when he came in, he had somebody that wanted to be rude and disrespectful. And all he wanted to do was just let them know that this was the concern. Can you get it fixed? He wasn't going to give them a ticket or anything. But you know, sometimes you get a little mousy or you get scared and you'll get a ticket. Okay. So that's pretty much the goal of being safe. Again, our alcohol intake has really gone up an awful lot. And that's the other issue that we have at hand. So with that being said too, we don't want to lose lives on that factor. I want to thank you all for coming in. I want to thank you for listening to me.
On the motion that was proposed by Councilman Jacobson, seconded by Clack, to postpone ordinance 2023-17 to the February 5th, 2024 meeting. Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to back to item A, Ms. Clack.
I am a
Our budget.
budget.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for being here. We'll get ready to go into the next one.
Page 12.
Oh, that's not.
Ordinance 2315, ordinance of North Pole City Council established in 2024, operation and capital budget and levy and mill rate, page 12 and 53.
I'm sorry.
Anybody have any questions? Any questions on this?
Just to confirm, nothing has changed since last meeting with this ordinance. Sorry. Yes.
Trish
Ms.
is gonna,
Fogarty.
Trish is gonna
Hello.
bring us up to
Okay.
date.
There has been changes if you want to scroll up a little bit.
Yep.
Do you want me to scroll down?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, the other
No,
way.
The other way.
Okay, so stop right there.
Okay.
So here you'll see that
Oh, there's the-
this was
okay.
recommended, there was some changes, so this was what. Earlier on, in the general fund, that there was some changes to the Public Works Department and some changes to the clerk's budget.
Is that under other miscellaneous where we go from 296 to 538 on that first page that you showed us? That miscellaneous category went up by
Oh.
200-some thousand, which brought us to the 9.2 million.
42.
We did a change, we added the 242,570 for the COVID.
Okay.
So that was reflected in revenue and expenditure, so that works out fine.
That makes sense.
The other change was to the clerk's budget to increase the election expense, and that is in the miscellaneous category, an additional $4,000. So that total was $8,000.
So, and that is on that, in the blue page up there, is that what we're looking at, or
Page 21.
page 21?
Yes.
Election expenses, okay, so now I see it's in a red box.
Right, that's in the red box, so you can kind of see which ones moved.
Tricia, can we touch on the COVID recovery fund?
Sure.
It's at 242,570 in the budget. Looking at the updated numbers that you sent out on your report earlier this week, had it at 239. What is the accurate number of the COVID?
The 239 is what we already expended.
Okay,
So this is what's left on that grant, and we have a deadline to spend what's left by the end of 2024.
and this is up to date then, the 242.
The 242 is what's additionally left on that grant, was $500 and some $1,000 grant.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. So at this point, I guess we can lower some other line items, or we can increase revenue. Those are the options right now.
You mean to accommodate these changes?
Right, and we don't even have to do that tonight. If we have another reading.
And that's going to be the
Taking place
meeting
on
of
the 11th.
December 11th.
Yeah, December 11th is the next meeting.
which is problematic because that's my other budget meeting in the city of
Okay.
Fairbanks.
So,
When you guys changed it, it was like,
yeah. Trish, what is your recommendation on this? Because you said you had some ideas.
Well, I do have some ideas. I think that we are probably a little bit low on the. Of course, this is kind of, we base all these figures off of history. So in the last few years that we have added the online sales tax, we've always received more money than we have budgeted. And so that is one area that I think we could increase and be still within good,
budget line.
okay, guidelines. Yeah.
Okay.
Trisha, I have a question concerning our current fiscal year and us going through this budget. It sounds like a lot of these issues could be solved if we switch our fiscal year by 6 months.
No.
No.
The city used to have a fiscal year that ended in July.
July.
So what we would be doing, we would be doing this whole process probably in May or June.
Oh, during fishing season. Okay,
Mhm.
never mind.
Fairbanks is also on a calendar year, so I feel like it's, you know, the mayor is going to disagree with me, but I think we're fine with what we have.
Yeah.
We've gone through a lot of changes in the last 6 years.
And we don't need those chairs. Yeah.
So what's the differential between online sales tax that we've received? Is there a percentage or a dollar amount in addition of what we budgeted versus what we received over the past 2 years?
Last year I took a ordinance to the council at the very end of the year to kind of shore up some of the expenditures and revenues to be close to what we had received. We really don't know what it's going to be like till probably February. And the online sales tax is a few months off, like what we're receiving now, the state collected on our behalf 2 months ago. So it's a little bit of a lag. And so I had updated those sheets that I gave you guys on, or Emily so kindly sent out on Friday. So those are the most current figures as far as the end of October.
What were those numbers again? Do you recall those numbers that were sent out?
I don't have it with me. I would have brought it if I knew I was going to get asked.
Did we have a motion to advance this ordinance to the?
Exactly.
move to advance to the meeting of December 18th.
Oh, not December 18th. That's the last day, isn't that the day that we're trying to turn in our last day of budget?
The meeting of the 4th has been postponed to the 11th, and the second regular meeting would be the 18th.
Okay, and with that, Jeff says he won't be here for the 11th.
Just saying. I thought I would pull a sneaky one on you.
Yeah.
So far, it's been the most chaotic budget.
Yes, very true.
On the floor, I have.
have us in check.
Is there objection to that?
They have the 11th and the 18th to finalize the budget. Rather than the.
Because you're not going to be here on the.
Well,
11th.
I guess advance it to the 11th because we still have to adopt it on the
For the
18th. So we still go to the 18th because they're, right?
This is second reading, so it would be third reading at the next meeting. But the
Oh,
next
that's
meeting's
right, it is.
postponed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the have been the third meeting.
So
It's the third.
I made that motion. I'm going to withdraw it just so we can discuss. So is there, we do have time to adopt the budget on the 18th. We can stick to the schedule and do it on the 11th. And it'll happen with or without me, depending on how bad I'm bleeding in Fairbanks.
I would just like to remind the council that AML is the 4th through the 7th, the week before the 11th meeting. And a lot of staff is going to be in Anchorage that week, when prep for the 11th meeting that's postponed from the 4th. So
Normally it would have been
So the 18th might be better for staff.
first staff,
Just wait.
But Trish is gonna be gone. Michelle's gonna be gone. And those are our bookkeepers.
Yeah,
Our
last year,
accountants for the
at this
system.
time I was gone and I worked in my hotel till after midnight to do that
Right,
fiscal note.
right. So, so would it be easier then to do this for you on the 18th?
Yes.
All right, so move
Move to advance this to the meeting of the 18th.
right.
okay, thank you, Jeff. I've got a first from Jeff. Did I get a second on that?
Second.
Mr. Skips. Okay, on the motion to advance ordinance 2023-15 to the meeting December 19th.
Does that cut off
18th.
debate of the ordinance after that? It does?
I'm sorry, I was clarifying the 18th, not 19th. I pardon.
Yes.
So if we advance it to the 18th, can we still talk about the budget?
On the 18th.
Like tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Just advance it to the 11th and then advance again.
Well, we're just doing it right to the 18th.
Oh, but yeah, they have to they either have to postpone it on the 11th.
You could make amendments to it on the 11th. You could change it.
This is my first guy, so I'm
Well, if
going
we-
with
if
what,
we- if
what
we-
your
If we
experience
move it
is.
to the 11th, technically, that's the third meeting and it gets adopted unless someone postpones it to the 18th. Which we could, or it could get adopted on the 18th, on the 11th, no matter what. We can still have staff reports on the 11th to talk about budget changes. It doesn't, I'm just ensuring that we have staff preparation for the final vote on the 18th.
Doesn't city charter require the 3 readings and then a vote?
It requires 3 public hearings and the budget must be passed by the end of December or the mayor's original introduced budget stands. So the motion is to advance it to the 18th.
And it was seconded by Mr. Skips. I will call roll. Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
No.
Mr. Keller, Ms. Clack,
I'm gonna go with yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2023-15 advances to the regular meeting of December 18th. The next item on the agenda,
Madam Clerk, that would still make that meeting on the 18th, the third reading?
that will be the third reading.
Okay, so with that being the third reading, then that's also the same time that we can do and make sure that all the corrections and stuff will be put in play. And we can go ahead and move it forward as our budget, correct?
Correct.
Trish? Okay.
Now, what would you like me to do? Make suggestions or are you gonna? Do you want suggestions? Do you want to?
Sure.
Yeah. And then. is
All
there-
the more help we can get.
Right. And then is there any way that you could possibly find out what our sales tax is online prior to that time? So you can get a better idea of how far ahead money wise? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll have another month. That's what and I can project what happened last year,
okay.
but
Well, if
the
you look at that
actual
month.
will
and
only
then
be one more
projection-
month.
Right. So if you can look at that 1 month that we're short behind and then project from that to what you already have, I think that might help you on that scale if that That's my thought. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Trish.
Will you also have updated fuel numbers like Jeff spoke
Yes.
about earlier?
Michelle wrote it down. I'll get that to you. I can give that to you tomorrow.
The other thing that we could do, if you're nervous about the, not talking about the budget on the 11th, is that we could have a budget work session on the 11th at 6 o'clock. So we have a half an hour just to discuss things, to mill it over, so that for the 18th, where we've got things more fine tuned, and if we have more questions, we can get that on the books and ready to go for the 18th.
That sounds good. And that'll give our two new members a chance to also follow along. Go ahead.
My only concern would be for the heads of the departments that may also want to be here for that, or
They can.
does that work?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A work session, they would be invited to it. It's just a more informal opportunity to talk about it without it being an agenda item where we have to, where there's more constraints on it.
Right.
And that would kind of give Chief Heineken an opportunity, if there's anything in his budget that needs to be adjusted, or the police department. Because I'm about to propose something that's gonna cause a lot of discussion, and that's probably why we should have a work session on the 11th at 6 o'clock.
Okay, let's cause for a work session on the 11th. And with that, Jeff's going to throw in a little bit so we can be somewhat prepared before the 11th. Can you do that?
All right, so this is just for discussion purposes. It's not an amendment, but it's something that I feel important that we need to be addressed. It needs to be addressed in one way or another, based on our audit that we had for 2022. Mr. Hutchison came to us in July and was able to present the numbers for the 2022 audit. He found some serious issues. Part of it had to do with the transition between our public works, the director of public services. There was a gap between when Mr. Butler left and when Mr. Wallace was hired. So there was some grant reporting that didn't happen, and he cited us for that. That was a one and done. So I'm not too concerned about that. But he did mention that we have some staffing needs that we should address, and so part of it has to do with there, and this is all out of the audit Alliance that we have the book, and I'm referring back to page 65. It talks about a deficiency in internal control exists when the design or operation of a control does not allow management or employees in the normal course of performing their assigned functions to prevent or detect and correct misstatements on a timely basis. And what that specifically refers to is he discussed this with staff and I think with some council members, and I'm not sure if it was in a work session, but there is a kind of like a one-man shop in one of our departments where decisions for purchasing is made by one person. The authorization to purchase is made by the same person. The purchase orders are issued by the same person. The authorization to pay the invoice is made by the same person. And that needs to be changed.
Yeah, because anything on money needs to be done by two or three witnesses to confirm that that's what's being done for business.
And the same thing was mentioned to him about grants, that we needed to have somebody who was able to monitor the same same thing happening with grants, so that just one person wasn't taking care of all of that. And not that this person's doing anything wrong. There's no accusations here. It's just a matter of check and balances and making sure that people are doing different parts of that process, not just one person. Then, as part of the audit, Mr. Hutchinson required a city response. What are we going to do about these issues that were raised?
Right.
And so on page 76, I had to draft and sign on behalf of Mayor Welch, who was ill and unavailable. And we had to have this deadline in order to get this book published, in order for the grant to be submitted, for the fire department to get reimbursement for Medicaid. So everything happened. And basically, this was dictated word for word from Mr. Hutchison of what I had to write. And so he refers to I'll just read it. City of North Pole Corrective Action Plan. Status: as of today, July 25th, 2023, necessary corrective actions have been made to the general ledger with the appropriate account balances, meaning that the auditors came in and said, these transactions need to be made to bring everything in line and balance it. And so we did that. And that's just a normal process of audits. They catch things and they say, this thing was put in the wrong account, it needs to be transferred over here, and we do that, and the money is accounted for, but it's just put in the right area where it's supposed to be. Then I went on to say the total compensation committee will meet this year in July and August to review current staffing levels, responsibility, skills, and training requirements, and any compensation adjustments, which we did. This will also possibly include contracting with Altman and Rogers in the interim to provide training and support to the city employees to monitor grant requirement compliance and reporting to provide an accurate schedule of expenditures of federal awards or CFA. And I'm not sure if we did that or not. Trish?
We're still,
We're still working on
under
that.
contract with them.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that's on track. And then this is the other part that is going to adjust the budget. The administration and city council will consider adjusting job description responsibilities for 2024 to fulfill grant management and monitoring oversight, and to enhance the separation of fiscal responsibility and to expand checks and balances. In addition, the administration and the city council will consider hiring a CPA mid-year in 2024 to assist the current financial staff and to facilitate a smooth transition as senior staff plan to retire in 2025. So in our current proposed budget, we don't have a slot to bring on a CPA mid-2024 to work with us, with existing staff, the latter half of 2024 to deal with the grant oversight, the separation of the checks and balances for purchases, and also to learn our system from Trish and Melody, so that they can start stepping in the role as our CFO looks towards retirement in 2025. So this isn't an effort to push Trish out the door. It's an effort to support her in her last year, that there will be a smooth transition for her and also with her staff. And, and also if we have hired the wrong CPA, we have time to find a better CPA, because that's happened here in our history where we've hired a CPA and it was not a good fit. And in fact, the shortest lived CPA that we had was from 8 o'clock to noon. And I had to tell the employee when they came back from lunch after having a very large liquid lunch, if you get my drift, that her services were no longer needed. And to be careful driving home.
Understood.
So this is just an idea. So we do have a position currently in our system that is the utility accounting specialist. The professional development criteria for this individual, which this job description was changed in September of 2022, resulting in a $3 an hour raise to assume these responsibilities to take over accounting activities and to get accounting courses. So in order for the first step, they were to complete an American Institute of Certified Public Accountants course, nonprofit certificate 1. And then they were to move up in the next year or the next step to be a utility accounting specialist 2. And that was to complete an American Institute of Certified Public Accountants course for nonprofit certificate 1. And then move on to the having a bachelor's degree in accounting, and then at the highest level, utility accounting specialist 4, to be a CPA. So this is just me thinking out of the box, is that we look at this utility accounting specialist transitioning to a CPA July 1, fulfilling the need that we have for Trish and for the auditors to have a CPA on staff, and that this position is the CPA position. And that also gives us from July to December to figure out what to do with the utility at half of that. But the current utility accounting specialist position would end June 30th.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that all to our attention, because I did forget about that.
Oh yeah, I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
just
why
asked him to
wanted us
throw it
that
out.
time,
Yeah,
because I'm just looking at this of saying, how do we make this happen?
right. Okay, next order of business.
The next order of business is ordinance 2316, ordinance amending the pay policy for City of North Pole employees.
Any comments? Questions? I'm hearing none. Yep, that's when they call it.
Move to adopt ordinance 2316, ordinance City of North Pole amending the pay policy for City of North Pole employees.
I have a moved by Mr. Keller,
Second,
ordinance 2316, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Skips, Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson.
yes.
Okay, that brings us to
New business.
council member comments.
New business? New business response? I understand.
We, in the committee of a whole, we passed those were we gonna open those up for the new business? Did we not pass those on the consent agenda? I apologize.
What was that?
Okay, so that brings us to new business. Memo is the response to requests for proposal for the city auditor.
Move to approve the request
Proposal.
for the approval of the auditor.
Okay, approval of the auditor, firsted by Mr. Jacobson, seconded by
Second, Skips.
Skips.
All right, discussion. Do we have any questions about this? We kind of talked to Trish a little bit.
And with that, she was saying it was Juno. Trish, would you like to come up?
Sure. After the audit from Alliance, we were contacted by Mr. Gary Hutchison, and he did retire this summer. And he spoke with the partners in his firm, and they do not want to entertain continuing with us at this time. So they broke up with us, basically. And so we had to go out for bid with this RFP. And I did talk to our folks that we work with, great people at Altman and Rogers. And they did give us some suggestions as where to send the RFP that might be a good fit for us. We had the clerk send those out. We advertised it in the paper, which is our normal process. And we had the packet on the website. We extended the deadline because as a lot of what we do is we got the request for proposal from Fairbanks because they just went through with this. And so we changed the wording to be North Pole, and we missed a crucial spot in that. So we had to do an addendum, and we extended the deadline because of that addendum. All that to say is we got this one audit firm that replied to us. They did have questions. We were happy to answer their questions. And the quote that they gave us is reasonable compared to what we've paid. And
so in looking at that, I was just trying to track it. So their proposal is 47,000 for the complete audit, 15,000 for the single federal audit, which we have to have, 6,600 for consultation, for a total of 69,600. And then in 2021, we paid our previous auditor 70,000 and 75,000 for the 2022. And the one we just got done for 2023 was 93,760. So a bid of 69,600 is pretty darn good. It's 30,000 less than our last year's.
And my question to you is, with these individuals contacting you, did you have a chance to reach out to anybody to, you know, how you do on, yep, these guys are good, these guys are not good? Did you do any slight investigating at all?
I did not, because our consults people did recommend this company.
Okay, good. That's my question.
They're Altman and Rogers are going to stay with us. What they charge us is very reasonable,
Okay.
and it keeps us with a third party that's got the expertise in all areas that we might not have. And so I bounced some ideas off with them, and they're very quick to get back with me.
Okay, good.
Fairbanks is suffering a dearth of accounting firms and accountants.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we were offloaded, was because their current staffing can't handle the workload because they can't attract enough accountants.
Okay.
Sounds like a common.
Anybody want to bring this to a vote?
On the motion to approve,
Call the question.
on the emotion to approve the approval of the auditor, Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Turch,
Yes.
Mr. Keller, Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson. And that brings us to the memo.
Yes. Request for acceptance of the grant fund,
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security.
Is that police or fire grant?
Police. North Pole Police.
Jed, do you have anything you want to explain to us about this? You can come up.
It's not quite open mic.
So I got to actually go down and sit in on the committee to disperse these funds statewide this last year, which I'll probably try to do again because it was very instructive. But basically we were seeking to upfit and upgrade our body camera and vehicle systems. which the way of the world, all of these companies are going to like a subscriber base, cloud storage. We're still trying to finagle the best way to do it for the least amount of money, but that's what really drove the application for it. Yeah, so the camera system for law enforcement. So for the total for the grant, for us, it was 119,330. And then we have a physical security assessment. That's not just for us. Within that, that's 35,000. And then a new backup generator for public works at 39,000.
So it comes to quite a bit of money that we're getting from them.
Right.
Yeah, close to 200,000, 193, 330 looks like.
And any of the federal strings that are attached to this, we don't have a problem complying with them.
No, and we've done this in the past.
Okay.
Okay.
Any downside you see with the grant, accepting the grant and moving forward with it?
No, it's a great opportunity.
What happens with the old equipment that we have? Are we gonna hang on to that in case the new equipment fails, which sometimes happens with cloud-based issues?
So we're actually not going to do the cloud-based because I do have an option to do a server in-house like we're doing now. That's the cheaper option because it gets us away from the subscription. We will retain the equipment. There's not really a whole lot we can do with it. We're going to look at fully upfitting all of our vehicles to a completely new system. So pretty hard to go back from that. But everything we've heard, FPD has already transitioned to this, to the new ones, and what we've heard is good.
And any equipment that we buy that has been bought with federal grant money, we cannot get rid of it unless we contact the grant source and get their permission or direction of what to do with that equipment.
Once we put the new stuff in, will we have a backup?
It's redundant within itself. So there's already redundancy built in. In a car, there's multiple cameras. We have extra body cams should one break, or we can always piecemeal and buy new stuff after that. This just really is the main part of the load of getting it
Getting them
upgraded.
started, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, on the motion to, the request to accept grant funds, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Oh, Mr. Keller. Oh, I did. Oh, yes, I did one. I did it.
Sorry, Miss Clack, I apologize.
Yes.
And Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're at council member comments.
Council member comments? Where you want to start?
I'm sorry, pardon?
Where you want to start?
Council member comments. Let's start at Mr. Keller.
Okay. Merry Christmas. It is getting that time of year. My major thing tonight, I want to publicly recognize that the ordinance for the safety of the vehicles on the road is not for money. I don't know how we can get things through people's heads. I don't know how many times or how many tickets the officers are going to have to write to match the interest that we're getting from our AMLIP accounts. $26,000 a month. You guys would be driving Mercedes. Don't try it. But this is like, it's, we're putting a price tag on safety. And I understand there's maximums and there's minimums of safety. And it's up to us now to kind of work and hash through that of what we expect within the city of North Pole. Because it is about the safety, it's not about the money. And yes, I understand we have dire straits within our community of people that are hand strapped with finances. So it's like, we understand. And we can see the potential of offenses and fines adding up, but that's not the point. The point is trying to help people be safe. And I'm not sure how many people understand the being an owner of a vehicle and a driver of a vehicle is not a right, it's a privilege. And with that comes accountability. How many of us actually turn on our cars, turn on our lights and do a walk around before we get in? I don't. Right? I usually look at my wife driving away in the vehicle and go, oh, I need to fix that light. So I'm grateful that we have the force and the police force that we do, that they are teachers at the heart first. Of course, they will match aggression, but a lot of it is presentation. So I'm grateful. What a wonderful time of the year for us to have Thanksgiving. I am truly grateful to be in North Pole. We just passed our 5-year mark here in the area, and it has truly been a blessing for my family to be here, to have associations within this community. I joke all the time that Fairbanks in North Pole area is small enough that we get to know each other's things and stuff, small town feel, but we're big enough to have a Costco. And so that's the ongoing joke, is we're small, but we're big. And I love that about this area. And for me to rub shoulders with some of these fine people and the department heads and the employees is great. And name another small town or a big town that you can do that with. It's truly a blessing. I'm grateful for the departments and the employees that we do have that want to go and make this better. Putting in late nights, many hours. So if you could please share that with the people that you work with, that we truly are grateful for everything that you do. And we're just trying to be the best stewards of taxpayer money and safety. So, and with that, I adjourn.
Just go down the line there, Mr. Church, you're next.
I would just like to thank everybody who came out today to give public comment. I think it's super important as a community that we listen to the people that we serve. On the flip side of that, I also think that public safety is number one. And I just want to thank them for their time and coming down. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Mr. Williams.
I'd like to say ditto on what Larry said. And I would like to thank the individuals that voted for me to get here. I know I got a lot to learn, and I see I have a heck of a lot to learn. But when I start talking, you want me to be quiet. Trust me. I'm honest and upfront about that. And I like that the point that our police guys are worried about these guys' safety. Because I've seen some really interesting vehicles out there on the street. And, all it takes is one vehicle to mess it up for everybody else. So we have to be careful in what we do. So my thing is, they brought the concern to us. We'll take it and we'll fix it. Or we'll not fix it, but let's say massage it and make it work for everybody. And we're here to serve the people. Okay. So we have to remember that, because I'm always remembering that. To me, that's what's important. And you know what? Here's a famous saying an individual said. Let's not, what did he say? Let's remember, it's not what your country can do for you, but it's what you can do for your own community. Country should have been community. Everybody got what I'm saying, right? So it's very important that we do those things. And that's all I got to say for now.
Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. I apologize for talking so much tonight. I didn't mean to overrun everybody. Again, thanks for everyone who did come out and share their thoughts and concerns. I want to congratulate Mrs. Clack for her first successful conducting of a city council meeting. She got baptism by fire right away to have to step up and conduct. So good job. You got one under your belt and that many more to go. Emily, same thing. Congratulations on your first solo city council meeting and monitoring us and keeping us in order and all the electronics that go along with it. And also, I appreciate the Open Meetings Act information in our packets. Emily gave us a very thorough explanation of that. The Open Meeting Act is nothing more than making sure that when we conduct city business, that we do it in a format that is transparent, that it is given public notice, and the public can attend and know what we're talking about. And if you want to talk about city business, you have to do it under certain numbers and for it not to be in violation of the Open Meetings Act. But when you reach a threshold of 3 or more, depending on the size of your group, it has to be properly noticed. It has to be properly open to the public. And what you talk about has to be open for people to hear or review or read about. And so that's all that is. And sometimes we forget about that. You get together we're a small community, we run into each other. And so if 3 or 4 of us are hanging out together, that's fine. We just can't talk city business that we're going to be voting on it at the next meeting or whatever, because that's a violation. So I appreciate that. It's something we have to constantly remember. And I kind of gave a Cliff Notes version for us to look at, just to put in your folders. I also wanted to share with you the precipitation information that kind of shows the history of how much snow we've had over the years and where we're at this year so far. It's really interesting to see where we're at. When you think of 2021, we got 120 inches of snow. And last year in 2022, we had 59. The pendulum swings. 2020 was 88 inches of snow. So just for your reading pleasure. And about Manh Choh, I included 2 articles that were in the paper. One is about what happens to the double train, or the B train they call it, the 2 loads of ore, that when they go up any incline, they drop down to 6 to 8 miles an hour going uphill. You can imagine what that's going to do between here and Delta. Now, there's a plan possibly when they get to Fairbanks to drop it down to 1 and have 2 trucks running them up through all the hills and steeps, but that plan doesn't happen between all the hills between here and Delta. So there'll be a lot of congestion out there. And I just wanted to keep giving you stuff to put in your Manh Choh mine ore hauling thing, because it's happening. Then the other one is a picture of the man camp that's on the Richardson Highway. So our local rental industry and our hotels are losing out on these people staying in a man camp. And the promise of 200 local jobs is being filled by a lot of Canadians. So there's a lot of advertisements on the radio that is somewhat misleading. And I really want to also just applaud our mayor. He was in a very difficult situation last week, in which that the policy committee met because the state, in order to make this trucking plan work, had to rebuild 3 bridges from Tetland to Delta, basically. They also have to fix one of the bridges here crossing the floodplain because it's not strong enough for the northbound traffic. So the current plan is for them to go down and drive on the floodplain and then come back up. And so they wanted to spend money to build a stronger bridge. And the same thing at Chena Hot Springs. That overpass isn't strong enough, so they're going to have to they have to exit off the Steese, go through the roundabout and enter back up on the Steese to continue on. And so the governor and the Department of Transportation pressured the FAST Policy Board, which takes federal and state transportation dollars and puts it into a calendar or plan that kind of programs out how this money's spent. Well, the state can't spend any of that money on these bridges and these fixes unless it's in that plan. And so they had them have an emergency meeting to amend that plan to put these projects in it. And the policy committee is made up of the mayor of North Pole, the mayor of Fairbanks, and a council member, the borough mayor and a borough assembly member, the Department of Transportation Northern Director, Ryan Anderson, a person from DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation. There may be one other state person, I'm not sure. But anyway, that policy board said, no, we're not amending the plan. So the state is going to have to go back to the drawing board because we're saying the money that we have and the projects that we have are a higher priority than rushing this through. And there are better alternatives to this. And one of the things that upsets me the most with a lot of the advertisements, they talk about this being a 3 to 5 year trucking plan. Like all we have to do is just get through the next 3 or 5 years and it'll be over with. That is so misleading. What they leave out of the story is that there are 4 other mines between here and Delta that they're going to be bringing online and putting those same trucks to use for the next 30 years. So all that stuff is going to be affecting us for 30 years. It's going to change how we live, why we live here. And that's why the City of North Pole Council unanimously said, no, extend the railroad, build a mill plant down there. Because the other thing that's coming out is that all this ore that's coming up, you have these 82 tons of rock, you only get a few ounces of gold out of that, and all the rest of that rock is now contaminated waste that gets piled up by Fort Knox. You can imagine how much rock that's going to be and what that's going to do to our watershed for decades ahead, if not centuries. Why should the borough residents be exposed to that? And that's why I'm just so passionate about, saying this is the time to extend the Alaska Railroad. This is the time to say, build a mill mine down there. And if you need to, get a new power line extended there. But trucking through North Pole and Fairbanks is not good. And the people were complaining about, us enforcing safety on the roads. I'm scared to death of those trucks, let alone all the people that, don't have, safe vehicles to drive on, and the commercial vehicles that aren't safe. So that's my little spiel on Mancho. And I also just want to say, compliment our police force. We really have a police force that is community policing minded. They work with the public. They are there to inform, educate, and enforce, but it's not enforce first. It's finding out what the problem is, telling them what they need to do differently, and then helping them to make the right decision, whether it's a warning or whether it's a ticket. And I've gotten tickets in my life. I'm not happy to get a ticket, but you know what? I was guilty. I did the California roll stop through my neighborhood, got away with it many years. And that one time I got busted, I can't complain. I broke the law. I also got a warning ticket when I was a teenage driver. One of my turn signals didn't work, and the state trooper gave me a warning ticket, and I had to go find a place to fix it and bring it back and show them that it was repaired. It was a learning experience for me. But we're also aware that times have changed, and getting into garages and getting supplies and repairs done it's not as easy as it used to be. But the reason why I asked for us to postpone this was just to give us some time. The last thing we need to do is have the community beat us up in November and December. I think the ordinance to make driving safety a priority in North Pole is important. It's just a matter of how can we package it, how can we promote it, how can we sell it and get our message out versus the message that was out there on social media and talk radio shows and things like that. And with that, I'm done.
Mr. Skips.
Yeah, I just want to thank all those who gave public testimony. That's the most people since I was at council that came out and gave public testimony. So a good thing you did postpone that. And I just want to say one last thing to Jeff. Every meeting, he gives us more to think about when we think we're done. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Clack.
I want to thank everybody who came out tonight. We heard what you said. We will reevaluate everything and let us and everyone enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas together, but with the forefront of let's be safe. And with that being said, I want everybody to have a nice evening. And somebody call the
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned at 9:36.
And